What's up, everybody? Welcome to 3D Rivals, your first line of defense against stupid movies. My name is DJ, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, my sister, Demetriana.
What's up?
And this week, we're going to do a bit different and talk about the problem with Phase 4 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, um, Phase 4 gets a lot of hate. A lot of people say it's not good, so we're going to try and dive into what we think is the reason for that.
So I guess my question is for you is, do you think Phase 4 is good? I think that should be the very first thing we answer.
My initial response is no, I do not.
Okay.
When I looked at the list of the movies, there's only 7.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them are good. So overall, still no,
Mm-hmm.
but man, they're below 50% on that.
Yeah.
And one's okay, so maybe we can skirt it over to the.
Okay. Yeah, because writing them down, I was like, doesn't seem so bad. But then it's just like after the first initial ones,
Yeah.
it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, well, then you have some good sprinkled in between. I think the problem, and I have a few theories with it, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why it generally gets an overcast as all bad is because the bad is really bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say like we've had movies in Phase 1 and 2 that were just like, that's not that good. Like Thor 2.
Yeah.
And it's that movie sucks. But
But like, man, if I compare Thor 2 to, I'm not gonna name the movies yet, but to the movies that I absolutely hate in this phase,
exactly.
oh, like I would watch Thor 2 all day and
Exactly.
night.
In the
Like,
first 3 phases, the movies that I found not that good are still leaps and bounds better than the movies in this phase that I don't like.
what we used to say about Marvel is that at least it's like you're gonna get an okay movie. Like
Mhm.
in general, they didn't put out bad movies. There are
Mhm.
movies we didn't like we mentioned, The Dark World, Iron Man 3, things like that. But in general, you're like, as a movie, it's okay. I
Yeah.
can watch Iron Man 3. I think we gave him the rating of Watch While Folding Clothes, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we have this rating,
Yeah.
because it's a movie that if it came on TV while I was doing chores, I could watch it.
Yeah.
Some of the movies in Phase 4, not that.
Yeah, they're legitimately bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
legitimate bad movies. So my first thought on this, I have a couple. One is not a really bad thing, but I think it did have an effect on some of the movies, and I think that is risk.
Mhm.
I think Marvel did with Phase 4 take more risk with some of their movies than they have before, which is not a bad thing. They should take more risk. But I think some of it didn't really pan out. And Eternals, I think, is one of those.
Yeah, I think in this one I had a lot of thought about the directing, and I don't know if you're gonna mention that later. Okay, so but I do think like they made an effort for every movie to be different because you could say in the first how many movies we had 20.
22, something
Okay,
like that. Yeah.
so in those first group of movies, they have the same setup.
Hmm.
It's a formula, right? Introduce the hero, problem, giant climax at the end where everyone's fighting each other.
Yeah.
And every movie was just the same thing, which was fine. I mean, they all turned out to be good movies, but they were all basically very similar to each other.
Yeah.
So I think in this phase, they did make an effort to be different.
Yeah, I was gonna say that based on what you're saying. When I was looking over everything, I was like, one of the things I think we said more often
Mm-hmm.
than ever in Marvel was, "Wow, this felt different than any other Marvel movie I watched." And we
Yeah.
said that at least about 3 movies, I
Yeah.
think, in this phase.
Yeah.
And then even some of the ones that are closer to Marvel, like No Way Home, it still kind of stepped outside of the bounds a
Mm-hmm.
bit. When that's what I was talking about with the risk.
Yeah.
And in some cases it worked, in some cases it didn't.
Yeah, I just wonder sometimes I think when they were focused so much on being different, you kind of lost track of telling a good story or you kind of lost track of like where we're going with this.
Hmm.
Like I feel like a lot of times every movie and every character feels like they live in their own bubble and it's not connected to the overall MCU, which would be fine if you didn't curate the MCU.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not saying that every movie has to. Well, like Black Panther,
No.
it didn't really, but it's still in the MCU, and you know it is.
Exactly.
You
But
know.
then it's like every movie doesn't have to connect. But when we have 7 movies and 13 shows and very little of them coincide with each other.
Hmm.
Like I don't know, what are we doing?
Yeah. So we got that the risk slash well, I guess being different Marvel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one factor. What I want to do after we lay out some of the factors, we can talk about each movie and see what may have affected it. Another thought that I had on that was writing. There is a lot of bad writing. I don't know what writers Marvel got,
Right.
but there's a lot of bad writing.
I think that goes on here with my director thought. That
Hmm.
I think this time around, which in theory seems like a very good idea, the directors and the writers were allowed more often or not to be themselves, to basically curate their movie, right?
Yeah.
Like Thor: Love and Thunder was a Taiki Waititi.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I said that
he
wrong.
Taika Waititi'd all
Yes,
over that movie.
exactly. That is
Just
very much his movie. Sam Raimi's movie was very much his movie.
yeah, yeah,
And I feel like, because we said before, it's just like we thought Marvel had too much of a hand in things.
yeah,
And now I just feel like maybe it wasn't a bad idea because it seems like when you gave them freedom.
yeah. Well, there's a balance. Obviously, I
Yeah.
think they let the Russo brothers kind of be the Russo brothers with the movies they did, and they did four,
Yeah.
right? So there's a balance between I don't want an Age of Ultron which smelled of Marvel's hands all over that movie, but also let the directors. I would see it like as a guiding thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It should be more of that, like, hey,
Yeah.
you can do what you want, but stay within these rails, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because and generally that would be bad for a movie. You don't want the studio controlling it that much, but when you
Mm-hmm.
have an universe, they kind of have to, right? Otherwise, you get Justice League. Um, which I mean, I guess the theatrical cut was the studio putting their hands in it, but you guys know what I mean. With
I really do feel like a lot of, because you can tell this is this person's movie, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like if you're becoming a director, right? It's because you put in your soul into that movie, which is a good thing. But I just feel like focusing on making it your own, you kind of lost focus on. At the end of the day, it's a superhero movie,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's just you just end up with not great movies where visually it may look good or something like that, but the story is weak.
yeah. I mean, their visuals during this phase definitely look good. Even some of the movies I hated the most,
Mm-hmm.
I had to admit that like they had some really good like cinematic moments in it.
Yeah.
Um, Sadly, we know that the people who made that weren't being treated properly, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a bittersweet thing. But yeah, but that's not enough. You can't just make a flashy movie and then just
Mm-hmm.
like it's good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So writing, directing, the risk factor, um, and I think those were the two biggest things. When you get to the shows, I think it's kind of an opposite.
Okay.
I think they went full on Marvel formula for the shows, and as it went on, it started to get stale very quickly.
Well,
Besides bad writing, we'll get to the bad writing.
I would say for the shows, yes and no, because I like some of the shows that were different. Like to me, WandaVision stands out, right?
Yeah,
Because the whole concept was is what if it was a different sitcom every decade? And I like that part of the show better than the ending when I felt like they
yeah.
kind of lost themselves.
Oh, the last episode definitely was not the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I do like, oh, okay, that's different. So I think some of the show, like to me, Loki was different
yeah.
in a good way. But then there are some, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier was very similar, and then at the
Well,
same time the story was kind of weak.
yeah, and I guess as we get into more detail, we'll kind of discuss that. Yeah, those two shows you mentioned are the standouts, and it's because they did something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was saying the risk factor that I mentioned before was kind of a good and bad thing. I don't want them to go back to, well, let's do a
Yeah.
Marvel formula. They need to take these risks.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have some good writing with it, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and the shows eventually they stopped. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you can say they took a risk with the shows they chose to do, but is that enough? And I'm gonna say no, especially with the last show they did, and
Yeah.
we'll go in detail with that. It's not enough to take a risk based on the character you want to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, outside the last one, I felt like the shows after Hawkeye was pretty cool. I mean, would I watch it again? No, but I didn't hate it. Um, I thought they were okay, but nothing about the show really made me want to continue watching it.
hmm
And I just ended up watching the first two episodes and the last episode. And that was all I needed. And to me, it seems like if that's the only part of the show I need to watch, then you're not doing the show correctly.
right. You might as well have put out a movie at that point
Yeah.
because now you're what 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, those are the three things I thought about as my theory is the problem with Phase 4. Obviously, there's a lot of other talk about Phase 4,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think factors into the movies. A lot of people will say because they're doing a lot of female driven movies or movies with minorities and stuff.
No, it's make a good movie. A good movie is a good movie,
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not it's female led or male led or if there's more minor. It doesn't matter. It just I think they lost their way. I mean, I'm not gonna say lost their way because I think it's a good thing that they tried to be different than what they did before because you want them to be different. I just don't think they went about it the right way. So no, it's not. Oh, I think they fell off because there's more women this time around than the first time.
Right.
I don't think that's the case. I do think that they have a character problem in this phase.
So the characters aren't interesting.
I don't think they're interested because going into this, like, one, none of these characters really mesh together. So I'm thinking, like, in the end, when there's another, some type of Avengers movie, how are they all coming together? Who's going to be the leader? Who do I want to be the leader?
Yeah, if you made an Avengers with the characters we got, and this is just a movie because we're figuring the shows aren't going to be
Mm-hmm.
in Avengers. These characters, I don't think make an Avengers team, right? You got Black Widow, Shang Chi. Well, Black Widow's dead,
Right.
so you got Shang Chi, the Eternals. Ugh. Doctor Strange still kicking around.
Yeah.
Spider Man,
So,
and yeah, Thor. I guess I like this is that's not
yeah.
there's no interaction between these.
No. So is that where it's like, one, some we've had before, some are new, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, is this a team I want to see?
Yeah,
And I feel like there's just no connectivity between the characters either.
yeah,
And then I don't know, like, what are we? Are we building towards the Young Avengers, the Thunderbolts, Kang? Like, what's
yeah.
happening?
There's a lot going on there, and I think what's going to happen, you're going to get the Age of Ultron effect, right?
Mhm.
Except for now, it's with an entire phase, which sounds horrible. Whereas now, Age of Ultron is retroactively made a bit better because of everything that tied into it from the future movies, right?
Mhm.
Which you can't really rely on. Like, you can't really do that. You can't be like, hey, this is going to be better in the future. Like,
Yeah.
it should be good when it comes out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing here. A lot of these movies are all setting up, like you mentioned, Thunderbolts, Young Avengers. You know, we see it coming, and I don't have a problem with that. But like you said, there's no mesh between the characters.
Yeah.
Nothing that's going to be interesting to see. I don't want to see the Eternals. I hope they never bring them up again.
Exactly. But
Like,
it's like, so the thing is, like, one, I didn't like the movie. I have no feels for these characters whatsoever. So if they show up in another movie, I'm gonna be like,
yeah,
yeah, you know? And it's just, by the time the Avengers rolled around now, when these Marvel movies first came out, I was not interested.
hmm
Just at all not interested. But by the time the Avengers came out, after watching them, you know, on DVD and Blu-ray or whatever, I was all in. I wanted to see Iron Man and Captain America and
yeah.
Thor together.
One interesting thing about that, because we
Yeah.
talk about connectivity, and I like when the movie can stand alone by itself. We just did a review for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, right?
Mhm.
And it can stand alone, right?
Mhm.
You don't need to watch the rest of the MCU. That's good. When in the first MCU movies are the same way, they can stand alone on their own because there are basically origin stories for each hero.
Mhm.
Here's the thing they did, in the end credit scenes made a thread between the movies. Iron Man 2 led to Thor, right?
Yeah.
Then you have Thor and the Tesseract led to, at the end of that, the Tesseract led into Captain America because
Mm-hmm.
it was the main thing in that movie. Now, I don't know, we get a bunch of random
Yeah.
things that don't seem like it's
There's
leading to anything.
no connectivity. And even when there's major things happening, it's not even brought up again. The Eternals, there's a giant creature coming out of the ocean,
Right, that should be
and it
huge.
doesn't get brought up. In Spider Man, the multiverse fractures, no one talks about it. Loki, right, by killing the variant of Kane the Conqueror, right,
Mhm.
that broke the multiverse, that doesn't come up again.
I guess they're saying, okay, Loki is the reason why Spider-Man could have happened,
But
but that's like one little thing, and I guess Loki is off, so I'll give them that. But again, with Spider-Man, I mean, you could at least talk about the fact that the Statue of Liberty was destroyed or
mhm.
whatever. Um,
Yeah, so it's like all of these things happen, it doesn't get brought up, and then none of them is like, I really thought, okay, Loki's gonna open a way, right? Multiverse of Madness, right? You're thinking Doctor Strange is gonna have some connectivity to that.
yeah, like okay,
Yeah,
there's a multiverse, and oh, why is this happening now? Oh,
yeah,
it's because of that, right?
yeah. Not the
No,
case, right? You think what's happening in Spider Man has some connection to it. Not the case.
right.
So it's just very weird that none of these items are connected. And it's just like, but all of these major things happen, yet it didn't happen because no one else seems to be affected by it.
Yeah, which does feel weird in a lot of movies. Um, where in it, and of course we're not saying like, oh, you gotta just talk about all this, but everything seems to happen and nobody
Yeah. Oh, we were
like,
talking about big things.
yeah, especially Eternals is I think is the most egregious with this
Yeah.
because there is a big person in the middle of the ocean now.
Yeah.
I don't know. We might be talking about that for a while,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And like you said, in the phase one, it was just the cut scenes, the end credit scenes that brought it all together.
Yeah.
And that was all we needed. In here, I feel like something similar would have been all we needed. But when you have something that's supposed to be a major world impacting event, and then when I get to the next series and the next movie, we're going to act like there weren't creatures coming out of the sky because that in New York City nonetheless,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen. Just it's
I guess
weird.
everyone's used to it by now. Like you've lived in the Marvel universe for so long, and it's like, hey, I mean, I guess maybe that's something She-Hulk got right, right? Like
Maybe.
people are just like, this is life now.
Could be. Then
Yeah,
someone say that.
yeah. So I guess there's that. Okay, why don't we go through, or did you have any other reasons you think that the phase might be a bit
That and I
weak?
thought in general there was just no stakes.
Yeah, or over bloated stakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like Eternals was over bloated.
Yeah.
Like they didn't need to have a world-ending event with that
Yeah.
movie.
So either none at all, or it's just like, really now? So
Yeah, true. All right, let's go through Phase 4. We
hmm
kick it off with Black Widow. Why? Because Black Widow should have been made earlier.
hmm Yeah.
Honestly, the only thing I think it's plagued by is bad writing. It's very a run of the mill Marvel movie, and the problem with it in lies with the plot.
Yes, but see, that's the problem though, right?
Yeah,
Because we were promised the Winter Soldier,
yeah,
and this is not the Winter Soldier. It's not a hateful movie, but it is not a great movie because the plot is so problematic. Just their choices just didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense for the Red Room soldiers to be brainwashed with pixie dust. It didn't make sense for you to change. Taskmaster is a great villain to have.
yeah. I think that's like one. I mean, they did keep them around, but it feels weird what they did
Just
with their.
it was so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Just
I honestly in a universe where we know they can brainwash people,
hmm
i.e., Bucky.
hmm
Why did we choose to make a chemical controlling thing? I'm like, that
it
didn't make sense. Obviously, they had control over them. They
yeah,
had Natasha assassinating people,
exactly.
right?
Like you didn't need the chemical thing when you take young children and raise them up to be assassins. You already brainwashed them.
Yeah, and honestly, that was a plot point for the entire movie, and I
Yeah.
think it undercut everything,
Yeah.
especially Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Like Taskmaster should have wanted to kill Natasha just for blowing her up.
Yeah. And then at
Like,
the end, it's like, oh, it's okay now. You can. I'm like,
you
no,
blew me up.
I'm still mad because you nearly killed me.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not forgiving you for that. So ridiculous.
yeah,
So yeah, but I mean, there were highlights. Like I thought the comedy was well. The characters themselves was good, even though I don't understand Natasha not having any injuries in this movie.
that's that did take me out of this movie. I
Yeah,
don't hold it as like a high
but it was
thing on this
so
movie.
noticeable. It was
I
weird.
was like, she is human, right? I
Yeah,
get that these are Marvel movies and it's over the top, but
no scratches.
usually you got to make it believable,
Yeah,
right? Like there are things that happens, and you're like, oh, this person should be dead.
yeah,
Um, but this just the way, maybe it's the way they shot it or what they put in it. It just nothing was believable. She fell off that roof and hit like five different things going down and lands on her feet.
yeah,
I'm like, yo, she's not Captain America.
yeah. And even then, I believe Captain America bleeds more than she did in this movie,
Yeah,
and he's superhuman.
it was so weird.
Yes.
But no, I overall I say this is one of the run of the mill, like Marvel can make a movie that's not great but still okay. I would watch this if this was on TV or whatever. So
I don't know if I would.
no.
I mean, I definitely haven't watched it again.
Oh, I haven't either. I watched it with my wife, and that was it.
Didn't we watch it together? It
She
was a
wasn't here, was she?
it was a group of us.
I don't think she was here. She wasn't here.
Oh,
Yeah, I had to watch it after the fact. Yeah,
my bad.
I'm pretty sure. Whatever. So I saw it twice. I think I fell asleep though. So
Yeah.
yeah. So okay, after that, these Eternals?
No,
No.
Chung Chi.
Shang-Chi, yes. Okay, so this is before all the bad Phase 4 talk because Shang-Chi was overall a good movie
Mm-hmm.
and one of the first ones where we started saying, "Hey, this doesn't feel like a Marvel movie."
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Were there some plot issues? Of course, every movie has plot issues. You just got to get over it.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it worked.
I think overall it was a good movie. I think one thing Phase 4 does sort of well, or at least they could have if they implement is have good villains. Like
Mhm.
Taskmaster could have been a good villain, but dude's father in this movie, great villain,
Super good villain.
great
It's
villain.
the only movie where we're gonna get to Mandarin because he died. But
Yeah.
you know what? I'm fine with it because
Yeah.
they did really well.
Yeah, I don't have too many faults with this movie. So it's been a while since I've seen it, so like I'm not remembering it well. I think to me the ending, I think they relied too much on that old Marvel
Oh,
giant
the CGI
CGI
versus
battle.
CGI,
When I
and
was
we're
like,
all good.
we had a good fight between him and his father. Same with Black Panther. We had a good fight between Namor and why can't I whatever her name is.
Shuri.
Yes.
Yes. But then we had to deal with
Yeah, like we
uh,
didn't need that other thing.
yeah, the armies fighting each other. Marvel always has armies fighting each
Yeah.
other. Why? I don't.
Sometimes it's not needed. And
Yeah.
in those two movies, it was not needed.
Yeah, that's true. And oh yeah, at the end of this movie, it was armies fighting each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, you did have that big CGI, but there were a lot of good scenes in it. We talk
Mhm.
about the cinematic stuff in the
Mhm.
movies, and it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Plus entertaining
Yes.
throughout. So that wasn't one of the bad points. But then we get to not the worst, but close to it, the worst movie of the Phase 4, Eternals.
It was just boring.
Tell me about it. The most boring movie. And
Oh,
okay, so
man.
here's a few. They hit a few points with this movie. Obviously, one, risk factor, right? They did
Yeah.
try to do things differently, which I think I commented on our review of it. I don't want them to stop doing that, but it did not work.
Well, I think because they've had like two good movies in this movie,
Mm.
and maybe they should have did that.
Yeah.
Like when you're giving us the history of that should have been movie number 1.
Yeah, the history of the Eternals, that might have been interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe going if you went into like more depth with what happened when they all separated and it was like the Spanish were like
Mhm.
committing genocide.
Mhm.
Um, hey, that could have tied into Namor's story, right? Isn't that around the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did it?
like that could have been a movie, and you could have had a little Easter egg since you knew you were gonna do it. A little Easter egg of like, oh, who's this kid? What's that about? Was that Namor? And then everybody on the internet would have been talking about it, and
Yeah.
then you show up in
Yeah.
Black Panther. You know,
Yeah. So yeah, there was better stories to be told in this movie. That and there's so many characters in the Eternals,
yes,
and I didn't have time to learn them all nor care about who they are.
that is the biggest problem with the movie. I think it does nothing to make you care about the characters.
Mhm.
And I can't say like part of me wants to say like you can't do an ensemble of characters in a movie, but no, they did it in Guardians of the Galaxy, and like I know you have to come to terms with with disliking the movie, but at least we got a group of characters, and by the end of the movie,
Mhm.
most audiences cared about those people.
Well, in the Eternals, you've had people like it's like okay, we just not get introduced to this character, to these people,
Oh,
and at the end of the movie, they got to choose sides on whether or not they're gonna go with fake Superman guy or the other person,
right.
and I'm just I don't
And
whatever
I'm
kill
like, I
each
don't
other.
care.
Exactly. Like I really don't care.
I don't care if they die,
Yeah.
nothing. Like this was it
Just
was I was so detached
yeah.
for this
And then
movie.
at the end of the movie, they're just like, oh, okay, it's all right. And like literally, you're gonna pretend like the one person didn't literally stab you in the back.
That's true. She did.
Just but we're cool though.
We're good.
Let me tell you what you can't do.
Stab you in the back.
Stab me in the back.
Okay. Guess I won't do that.
Just it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, that didn't make sense. A waste of some good actors too. Yeah. Who was directing this? Because everybody's just real pouring in this movie, and everybody talks in such a monotone way,
I
and
think
it's all.
someone who I read the name and now I forgot.
Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't good directing.
No, it's just 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 the choices you made. You've had two better movies than the one you gave us, and it just
Yeah, the deviants who took the sidestep. Like, why did you have the deviants as a villain and then not a villain?
and then you had the one deviant becoming intelligent, which I think, oh, this is gonna lead to something.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
Like, and it goes nowhere with it. That was a better
That
story.
happens a lot in these bad movies
Yes.
for Phase 4.
Yes.
Like you have something and then it goes nowhere
Yeah.
for some reason.
Just
Yeah,
and it was too long.
definitely too long.
Probably because we spent the hour and a half them trekking across the country or the world, I should say, telling us the same story.
Yeah,
Half
half
the
the movie
movie.
was gathering the team and each person telling them
Yeah.
why they needed to gather the team.
Yeah. I'm like, we could skip some of these steps.
Yeah, so that was horribly done. I definitely never want to see any other Eternals. I don't care you brought Sly Fox guy, whatever his name is, Star Fox.
Don't even know who those
Uh,
people are, so it's
yeah,
whatever.
like no, just don't. I don't
Nope.
want to.
Don't care. I just learned that the guy playing him was apparently someone famous. Don't care.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get it wrong. Was it Harry Styles?
Yes, it was Harry
Oh, okay.
Styles.
Yes, there we go.
Up until that point, I had no idea what he looked like, so don't care.
That's true. Is he the one that made
Don't.
watermelon
You
sugar?
know I don't know the
Okay.
answer to that.
All right.
It's your
No,
wife who had to tell me that I was Harry Styles. I was like, oh,
yeah, no,
okay.
because my son used to sing it all the time. But
Actually don't know what that song is.
yeah, well, maybe he shouldn't sing it
Okay.
if you really think about what he's talking about. But okay.
Never heard it, so okay.
um. Okay. Yeah. So, I Eternal. God.
Mhm.
Horrible. Okay. After Eternals, you get No Way Home.
Mhm.
One of the better movies of Phase 4. Some plot problems.
There's a lot of problems. This is why I cannot like this movie.
Oh, okay.
I
I
mean,
mean, I think it overcomes its plot problems.
it has a lot going for it. I think the emotion in this film is, good, legit. It's
Mhm.
just just the stupidity of it all just bothers me too much to like
Yeah,
this
I think
movie.
they needed to tighten up the reason why. I know it's like they wanted something to happen and they needed to make a reason, right?
Yeah.
And they really needed to tighten up that reason. Him wanting to get his friends in college, it's not a strong enough reason for this to happen. Plus,
Especially,
Doctor Strange is supposed to be smarter
yeah.
than that. I know he's arrogant, but
Yeah.
it if he starts making changes, why not stop and say, let's talk about this before,
Yeah.
and I get that we wouldn't have a movie if we did it,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of,
Yeah, so yeah, like that was just like I felt like people were making dumb decisions simply because we needed to have things happen.
mm-hmm.
And then the same when the villains is like, "Oh, we can't send them back because they all die." And I'm like, "That is not your problem."
Yeah, it's not, but that's what his aunt was trying to teach him. Like, you have to care about these people.
No,
But
he does
again,
not.
I get the lesson that you wanted her to teach Uncle Ben's lesson,
Yes.
which was good. A powerful scene when she said it. But I think it doesn't really work with the plot because even if he like, oh, if we cure them, they don't die. What made you think that?
Yeah.
Because guess what? Now Norman Osborn is going back fighting a fully powered up Spider-Man with no powers, as if that Spider-Man's gonna know that
Yeah.
he's human now. He gets punched by Spider-Man and dies because, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
there is that. Otto Octavius dies in the river because he needed to stop his machine. That's why he died. He didn't die as a bad guy.
Yeah. So it's just all of that
Yeah.
just made my brain hurt. And I couldn't do it. But I mean, I will give you, although I would never say this about Guardians of the Galaxy because I hate that movie, I will give you in general, this is a good movie. I personally hate it because to me, the plot problems are too much to overcome.
Okay. I feel you. Um I don't think it's so much. I know we put writing down.
Mhm.
I don't think it's bad writing overall. I think they had an idea and they didn't know how to
Yeah.
get to it.
Yeah. So it's like, how do we make this happen?
Yeah, because the rest of the writing is good.
Yeah.
It's just like we need to make this happen.
Which is like all movies, right? We figure like, oh, this is a coincidence. Of course it is, because how else are they going to do the thing we need them to do?
Yeah.
We got to be the most convenient conveniences of all conveniences.
Yeah. Like everyone complains about the rat in Endgame.
Yeah.
Which I defend because 5 years went past. So everyone acts like it was like, oh, and then a rat does it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been 5 years. So
I mean,
yeah,
after
it's a low chance.
after 5 years, I think it's possible that any animal would have walked over there and happened to press the button.
Yeah.
I buy that. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah. But that being said, yes, there's always a how do we get to this?
Yeah.
How do we get Ant-Man out of the quantum realm? How do we get Spider-Man to bring his foes from the other movies back?
Yeah. So.
I don't know. You know what they could have done? Loki broke the multiverse and people just start coming in. You
Which
didn't
is
even need
what
to
I
explain.
thought what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Why did she break the multiverse and then not use it? Right? Think about it. If you use this thing that happens, none of the stupid stuff that happened in this movie needs to be a thing.
Yeah, it could just start happening, and people who watched Loki would understand, like, wow. And people who didn't could still watch the movie, and then you got Doctor Strange in it. He could just say, like,
Yeah.
I don't. The multiverses are crossing, and we don't know why. This is a weird thing that's happening. We got to try to
Yeah,
get these
you could have
people
did
back.
that. You could have literally have taken clips from that movie, stuck it in this movie for everyone who didn't watch the show.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, this is happening. This is why this is happening.
would have worked.
Would have worked.
All right, but see, at this point, we haven't really gotten to. Oh man, Phase 4 is not good. we've gotten, wow, Marvel has released its worst movie in Eternals, and then we continue on. Now I haven't seen Doctor Strange. Wasn't that the next movie?
It was reviews on it is not great.
Yeah, it's a bit mixed. I've seen
Yeah.
some clips from it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, overall the consensus is that it's a pretty weak movie.
which is not good. And so at
Yeah.
this point is when everyone goes, okay, Phase 4 sucks.
Yeah.
Because you got Black Widow, which was middling at best, and then
Mhm.
Eternals, and then Doctor Strange, and everybody's like,
Yeah, this isn't great.
yeah.
And then
And then Thor: Love and Thunder, which broke, that was the straw that broke the camel's back to me. This is the worst movie in Phase 4,
This is the
period.
worst movie in the MCU.
This is the worst movie in the MCU.
It is
And
so bad. Like,
talking about our factors, um, no risk factor. There was no risk factor in this. Um, but writing, horrible,
mhm.
horrible writing all the way through. And you know what? No, you know what? No, I take that back because the plot isn't bad.
But we didn't see the plot.
Yeah,
Though.
it's the directing. This
Yeah.
movie was destroyed by directing because we made it silly.
Exactly. You took what the one thing people liked out of Ragnarok, which was, oh, we liked how lighthearted it was.
Yeah.
Great. Then you decided to what if the whole thing was just jokes. And it's like, no, that's not what we wanted.
We got to take some stuff seriously.
Yeah. And you took what could have been a great villain, you ruined a good performance by Christian Bale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like this guy is going around killing people and we don't see none of the killing.
No. And because they couldn't make him joke, right? So
Right.
they took him out of the movie.
So you took the villain out of the entire movie. Makes no sense. You dumb down every single character in this movie.
And Thor is silly, right? Which we got in Ragnarok. This movie made him look stupid.
You took something that should have been serious, as in James Foster's illness.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't even get that feeling. Like the feeling when she dies and stuff like that is just like that should have had the same feeling that we got in Spider-Man.
Yeah, when Aunt May died.
Yeah. Well, that's the same feeling we should have gotten in Black Panther.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to feel when this character is gone, but you downplayed as something incredibly serious so much it had zero impact.
Yeah. And it's just, oh my gosh, the what they did with Thor is kind of hurtful. His character took a real journey.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of Endgame, he was in a different spot. You can't continue from, oh, Ragnarok was silly. Now Thor's sillier. He's like, bro, he lost his entire family.
Yeah.
He left because he was like, I have to figure myself out.
Yeah. It would have been nice if we would have seen some more character growth with his time with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they just backtracked him.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been nice if the first 30 or so minutes of the movie would have been him with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And even then you play that where they's basically like, okay, you can go now. We're tired of you. Ha ha ha. And it wasn't funny.
No.
And it wasn't needed. And you took something that could have been him getting some type of closure, finding new friends and stuff, because he's all by himself, and you ruined it.
Absolutely ruined it. Thor, hey, man, it upsets me what they did with Thor.
It's so bad. I had a friend who's like, "Did you see it?" I was like, "Yeah." And the first words out of her mouth was, "It's so bad. I'm mad. I waste my time watching it on Disney Plus." Like they didn't even pay for it. They were mad at the time they wasted watching it at home.
Disney Plus. I'm supposed to, because my wife still hasn't seen it, and I'm like, we've been, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And then, you know what? Another problem was like Ragnarok. Yeah, it had funny moments, but you know what? It told its story, and it wasn't undercut by the humor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, humor is better when it's like it feels natural.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Ragnarok. It's like some of the characters were saying or do things that were like, oh, that's funny. And it was a natural thing in the movie. And here, everything was a joke.
Everything is a joke. Every scene, every line, it's always joke. Even the final fight, because Thor gives his power, which he can do that now. I'm like, well, he can give the power of Thor to people. Why not do that to the Avengers?
Exactly.
But whatever. He gives the power of Thor to all the children, which makes a very stupid scene. It was not enjoyable. I'm sorry. Yeah. It was dumb.
Yeah.
Absolutely stupid. Jane comes in there. It was cool that she got to come in and help fight with Thor. How did she get there? She was in a hospital bed on Earth.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the Bifrosty axe thingy, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's because they felt like they needed to have her in the last scene of the movie.
And so she dies because of it. Now, that's why I said I'm not going to blame the writing. Because, I mean, unless it's the joke writing, which, honestly, I think Taika Waititi wrote all the jokes. Because everyone acted like Taika Waititi in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
everyone was a version of Taika Waititi,
Yep.
which I'm sorry, we only need one of those in the movie.
Yep.
you know, and yeah, the plot, if you look at it deeply, is like, oh, there's a good movie here.
Mhm.
There's a good movie here, and this is one time I saw the directing just ruin. Besides the theatrical release of Justice League, the directing ruined this movie,
Absolutely.
which for me was a surprise because after Ragnarok, I thought Taika Waititi was a good director to go with.
I think it was too much of him.
Yeah,
It was just way too much of him. You can tell this is the movie where we were talking about earlier about like that freedom
yeah,
that they gave people.
yeah. You need to rein that in.
Yes.
We needed to rein Taika Waititi in.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So worst movie in the MCU. Good God, I never want to see this movie again. It, how do you ruin a legacy character? He's been here since the beginning.
Yeah. It's almost as if it's like, wow, giving us a fourth movie was like, oh, okay, that's cool because everyone only 3 and you're done.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, dang, I really wish you would have stopped.
Yep. Just ended it. Thor
Yep.
left with the Guardians, and then
And that's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
He could show up in other movies. No more Thor movies. Actually, after Love and Thunder, just don't. Just no more. In fact, that's how I'm going to view it. Thor ended in Endgame.
Fair
and
enough.
then if he shows up somewhere, cool. But Love and Thunder didn't happen.
It's fine. I like to pretend things don't happen too.
God, Lady Sif. Like, we can't take anything seriously. She's injured, and we're like joking back
Yeah.
and forth about it.
Just whatever.
Which it makes the threat not feel real.
Exactly. Well, that and never seeing the threat. Also, it's like, why would I care about something I don't see? You're telling me how awful it is, but you're not showing me how awful it is.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Super waste.
Yeah.
All right. What, Black Panther's after that? Okay. We've given our views on Black Panther in the last.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's not
good.
flawless, but it's good.
Good. So, after going over all of those movies, I think it is what we said. Phase 4 is not as bad as everyone is saying. It's that we have some of the worst movies.
I think
it
gets worse if you add in some of the TV shows.
Let's talk about the TV shows then.
That's the thing. Like the movies, I feel like if we're gonna bump Black Widow up, then we're saying it's half and half good, half bad.
Yeah.
Which is still not great.
No.
But it's like, okay, whatever. But then when you throw in all the TV shows,
here's where we start to lose. Now, I'm going to say overall the TV shows are passable, I guess. Like, it doesn't feel like anything has happened. And I'm not saying I don't want Marvel to make TV shows because I think there's a lot of potential there. But you mentioned earlier, we started with WandaVision, which was a super high bar. Like, they took the risk. It worked, right? They stepped away from that Marvel formula, which was good. And then we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, still good. But then I feel like at Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this is where they like, oh, this is our formula.
Yeah.
And every show, besides Loki,
yeah,
Loki didn't follow it, but every show followed this formula from there on out.
Exactly the same. That and a lot of the shows, I kind of feel like, did I need this?
Right. Especially the last one, which we'll get to.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of shows, which I'm fine with the amount of content you're giving me, but only if you're giving me quality content. And at this point, with after Loki, we have things like Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and it's like, it's okay, but it's honestly not something I needed.
Yeah. Like, okay, Hawkeye, I enjoyed Hawkeye, but Hawkeye wasn't that bad. I think I can put Hawkeye with the other 4. But here's what you get to. A lot of it feels unnecessary. Not so much in Hawkeye, but throughout the other shows, you start to get this feeling because what they do is the only interesting thing that happens every episode is in the beginning and the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get this entire middle of the episode that's boring and
Yeah.
uninteresting and slow moving. And that happens for every show. And then you have episode 4 where something spectacular or unexpected happens.
Yeah.
And then 5 is kind of everyone's recuperating, and then 6 is your Marvel splashy ending,
Yeah.
right? And that happens for every show. It happened for Falcon and Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss
Miss Marvel.
Marvel, and it didn't happen for She-Hulk,
Because
but
nothing happened in that
nothing had
show
happened in
at all
She-Hulk. Yeah.
whatsoever. Just
So yeah, it starts to feel like that. I enjoyed Miss Marvel, but I don't know, a lot of the episodes in the middle of the episode, I was
yeah.
like, okay. And then the end of the episode, I'm like, oh wow, cool. Okay, I want to know
Mm-hmm.
what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is like initially I'm like, oh, okay, this can be something I want to see. And like what Miss Marvel is like, I like kind of the style they went with.
Mm-hmm.
I like the character. I thought, Miss Marvel's cool. But then it's like watching the show is like, this is not something I really need to watch every week.
Right. It could have been condensed.
Yeah,
If you have a 6 episode show, and by the end of it, it feels like it could have been shorter, there's something wrong there.
exactly. Like you cannot. I mean, 6 episodes isn't a lot, and you're telling me you can't fill six
Yeah,
episodes?
these all feel like they could have been
Yeah,
shorts. I don't know, you
yeah.
know.
It's just, and Moon Knight was the same way.
Moon Knight was the exact same
Yeah.
way, followed the same format, and again, they took risks with all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Not Hawkeye. Hawkeye's baseline
Yeah.
Marvel.
See, my
Um,
problem with Hawkeye is before we do that is I always felt like it wasn't enough. You know what I mean? It's like, Yelena comes to kill him, but then
and
it's
then
just
leaves.
and then leaves. Just like, really
Well, she didn't want. I think she after I didn't watch it again, but I watched someone do a reaction.
no? Mm-hmm.
Now that I see it, I think she left because she didn't. She knew Kate was going to continue to get involved, and she didn't want to hurt Kate.
Okay. Sure. I just feel like that entire series is just more could have happened. And I think this was one of those things where Marvel's making a real effort to nothing bad will happen to these people in the show.
Yeah, yeah,
And I kind of felt that a little bit, but overall the show's fine.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, because the whole time you knew nothing was going to happen to Hawkeye or
yeah.
something. I mean, it would have been interesting if they killed Hawkeye. That would have been, oof.
Mm-hmm.
That would
That
have been,
and
yeah.
the whole watch thing was overplayed and dumb.
I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, what was the point of the watch? Because all it had was her agent number on it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay, his wife is an agent. Guess what? Don't care.
Yeah, she was Mockingbird. Great. So we don't get a Mockingbird in the
Disappointing.
MCU. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Um, and then Moon Knight. Okay, so they do take a risk because an interesting storytelling with a character that has dissociative identity disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about as far as your risk goes. Everything else still follows the same Marvel formula, and
Mm-hmm.
that is the problem with the shows. Um, Miss Marvel was a different show. Interesting to dive into what it's like to be a Pakistani American. I learned a lot about India and Pakistan that I had no idea about.
Mm-hmm.
Great. But then again, they put some of that in there and then followed a Marvel formula, which really got stale. And then we get the worst show, She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about some risks, that they're taking. They wanted to act like this show was a risk, but it was not a risk.
It
And the show tried to pretend that it was a risk.
exactly like the show was like smelling its own roses so much. It's just like you're doing nothing in the show. Nothing you're doing is making. It's like you wanted to make a point, but you failed to make that point because you didn't do anything to prove your. It's just like you go in there saying, "Hey, you guys are mad about a woman-led show. Let me show you how it was done," and then you proceed not to show me how it's done.
Yeah. Um, you the entire how we talked about, oh, well, Phase 4 didn't have a thread or whatever, but then
Mm-hmm.
again, it's movies, and the movies don't have to completely connect with each other. I'm sorry, your show definitely needs a concrete thread throughout it. There was nothing.
No.
You alluded to people wanting her blood,
Yeah.
but that barely showed up throughout the show, and
Yeah.
each episode was nothing.
Yeah. This was a show about absolutely nothing.
Nothing happened.
Yes. And if you're going to make a show about nothing, at least be an interesting nothing.
Yeah. And then you undercut that nothing at the end by having her change it. Now, here is what I think they did with She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she can break the fourth wall. Oh, in the comics, she has made the writers change the direction of the story before. Let's do that. And they built the show backwards from that.
Right. But see, that would have been interesting, right? If she stops the end of the show and says, hey, let's do something differently. Okay, fine. But then the show ended without having a real ending now.
Yeah.
So your
There
different
was
was
nothing.
nothing.
So the one very loose thread that you put throughout the show led to nothing because
Yes.
she changed it in the end. Not to say that the over contrived ending they were putting together was
Right.
good. It wasn't. It was
But
bad.
it was
Just-
bad on purpose.
It was bad on purpose. Made no sense at
Yeah.
all.
No.
And you know, no writer was writing that. No one was having Bruce jump in, and then these people, and everybody shows up in the
Yeah.
same place. Nobody was writing that.
No.
And if they were, you needed to
No,
fire them.
you
immediately.
did that so you can stop her from having that ending, and then your new ending was no ending at all.
Maybe you could have made it interesting. Made it somewhat like her friend gets killed in the aftermath of it, and then she's like, no, we're not doing this because she breaks the fourth wall and changes how that ending happens, but still make it interesting. This show was not interesting.
Nope.
And I don't like, I wish it wasn't trying to make all those comments about, oh, all these haters for a female led movie, because there are, or a show, because there are all these haters for a female superhero, female led movie or show.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't do anything to
Exactly.
really
Prove
shut them
wrong.
up.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're going to call them out, then you have to prove them wrong.
Yeah, this show was horrible when I look back on it. Like every episode I could watch, but that's as a standalone episode.
Yeah.
And usually each episode feels like that one episode in the middle of a season of a show where they're like, we need an episode, and it really does nothing. But every episode of this show is that.
Yeah. And then my thing is, you advertise yourself as this lawyer comedy show.
There's no lawyering.
But there was no lawyering. The lawyer stuff you did had it was bad. So bad that me, not lawyer, was like, this isn't right. Then I watched lawyers review it and they're just like, this is some trash.
Yeah, Legal Eagle did a review on YouTube. And yeah, he's like, no, none of this makes sense. And I'm sorry, if you're going to have a lawyer show, you need to do some research on it. I think I told you when I talked about it, some psychiatrists did a review of Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, wow, what they did on DID, they got on point with most of it. Some of it, obviously, for cinematic purposes, are not exact.
Yeah.
Talking to themselves in the mirror or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But that's a nice show for movies.
Yeah.
But everything else, they're like, yeah, they did their research on DID, which I think added to, like, some of the enjoyment you can get out of that show, even if, like we're talking about, it was formulaic. She-Hulk, nothing. You wanted to make a lawyer show and you're just like, oh, I guess mumble jumble legal jargon.
Yeah, just you have no lawyers working on the show. Doesn't make any sense. When every episode has a lawyer scene in it, and you're just gonna make up stuff. What's the point? Then when you call yourself a legal comedy and then don't even bother to get the legal part right, and your comedy was not funny.
I'm like, I don't know. Watch some episodes of Ally McBeal.
Here's the thing. To prepare for the show, I don't like Ally McBeal. I don't understand why people like it so much, but I tried. But I wanted to be like, what's a legal comedy?
Right.
Ally McBeal is the only thing I had a reference of. And in that show where I was just like, okay, I get it. And Ally McBeal breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
There's jokes in there where it's just like she's daydreaming about things that might happen. Right. And I was like, okay, I get it. Then compare that to She-Hulk, I'm like, oh, they completely missed the boat on this.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
It's just horrible. God, I don't want a second season.
No.
I don't.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't need to see her ever again in anything ever.
And then Hawk has a son.
That came out of nowhere. You know what I don't need? I don't need more Hawk.
No, that's fine. I could do without Hawk.
Yeah. I could deal without Hawk. And then you introduce a random son and a random show. Why did you think that was a good idea?
And then how they did it too. I don't understand. I'm like, you would think you would want to do this better.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, hey, look, Hawk has a kid.
Yeah. Just
What?
yeah.
Like,
Like where the heck did that came from? And then just
so bad writing? Yes, all around. Risk? No, they did not take any. They pretended like they did, but they did not take
well,
a
they
risk.
pretended like having a woman lead a show was the risk,
That's
which
not the
is
risk.
that's not the risk. Think we've been doing that for 100 years.
You watch people. The last show had a female lead. Stupid. The Hawkeye had a female co-lead. Like,
Yeah.
don't. Marvel, not Marvel. Whoever the writers were on that.
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So, yeah, and I think that's when you add that all together, and I think we got a lot of periods where it was a long period of us getting mediocre stuff. And then you got a Spider-Man. You're like, oh, woo! And then a bunch of mediocre bad stuff. And
Mhm.
then you get Black Panther, and you're like, oh, woo! But it's just if you're watching both the movies and the shows, you kept getting all these long periods of this is kind of not that great, which
Mhm.
is again why everyone's saying Phase 4 wasn't that good, and it wasn't.
Nope. It really wasn't.
Yeah,
And Marvel knows it's not good because they just ended it. They was like, okay, we're just gonna cut this off.
yeah.
Yeah. Not great.
So here's to Phase 5 being better, hopefully.
I don't know. I mean, it's like I want it to be better, but now I have no idea what you guys are doing. And watching the trailer to Ant-Man, and it made me wonder, like, do they do I care? Like, because I feel like Kane the Conqueror coming kind of comes out of nowhere, and now I'm just like,
I think they kind of set up though for him to be in the quantum realm because they showed the city in there before. I mean, I don't think they're taking leaps at having him in this movie.
okay,
Like they did make threads for this beforehand.
okay,
So, the trailer, I mean, it looks okay. I'm not dying to see the movie.
yeah,
I'm gonna see it. It looks a bit more serious than other Ant-Man movies, so I don't know if that's is it the same director?
I don't know.
And I don't know if you can have a serious Ant-Man movie. I know I just talked about being too jokey,
Mm-hmm.
but Ant-Man's not a serious
Yeah,
superhero.
and then I don't know, maybe they'll surprise me. But now, and it could just be after going through 7 movies and 13 shows of nothingness.
Yeah.
I'm going into this like,
And I was about to say something, and then I was like, I can't say that. I was like, but the actors you got, I mean, Jonathan Majors is great. Paul Rudd is good. You got Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer. Only problem is the replacement we got for Cassie. I've only seen her in one movie, which was the Detective Pikachu movie, and I hated her in that. So, uh, because she was too over the top for Detective Pikachu.
wow. Okay, well, I mean, maybe she tones it down in this movie.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, but that doesn't mean anything. We've seen plenty of movies with great actors there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of ruined. So we got that, but there are good movies ahead, right? Or supposedly good movies.
Supposedly, yeah.
Okay. Um,
I mean, we can wait and see, but if Phase 5 is also trash, I'm out. I'm all the way out. I got better things to do with my time.
we're not staying for Avengers. What? Oh, I don't even remember.
Uh, I don't know.
Oh,
I,
okay. Avengers something.
I now I'm forgetting what it's supposed to be called.
Kang.
The Kang Dynasty? Is that what it's called?
Kang Dynasty, yes.
Ooh, look at
And
that.
before that, Secret
Secret
Wars.
Wars.
Yes, which that could be interesting. Now that's gonna have to do with the multiverse stuff they were setting up.
It's not gonna be like that comic, is it?
No, see, I think this is based on the second Secret Wars,
Okay.
which we have to watch.
Yeah.
Now, okay, the show Secret Invasion.
Which-
It looks good from the trailer.
What trailer?
Did you see the Secret Invasion trailer?
There was a Secret Invasion trailer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it.
Okay, I mean, I thought you for sure
Was
watched
it
it
on the
with the
Disney Plus
scroll
day?
and stuff and Nick Fury.
Was it on Disney Plus day?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, but see, Secret Invasion is something I have been wanting for a long time.
Yeah,
But now I just like you took forever to get there, and I mean, it could be good. Hopefully,
yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
you
We
already
still
know
have
I don't
James
want to see
Gunn.
that.
I know. I'm not talking to you with this.
Oh,
I'm just going to
okay. You're
mention.
literally talking to me, but you ain't talking
Yeah.
to me. Got it.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We still have James Gunn. He's someone that I think sticks to his style, and I don't think it's going to change.
Except
Um,
for okay,
yeah, you don't like the movies.
because they're
Forget it.
not good.
Okay. Echo is a show coming up. So you have Secret Invasion and Echo as shows. They seem like they should be good. Like they're supposed to be good. Echo is one of the best characters in
That's true, but
the
only if
Hawkeye
they
show.
gotta be they gotta do different than what Hawkeye did. Like I told you, like Hawkeye limited itself too much.
Yeah,
You cannot. To me, Echo needs to have the same vibes as the Daredevil Netflix shows.
absolute. She's a Daredevil character. So, yeah,
You were talking about risk. Is Disney gonna take that risk?
they need to. They said they were doing it with Daredevil.
We'll see. I'm
Yeah,
not convinced they will.
I'm not convinced they will either, but they should. I mean, honestly, like it can't be as humorous as Hawkeye.
No,
That doesn't fit her character at all. So
no.
I think they need to make sure that is a serious show.
Mhm.
Loki, if we get the same as season one, I think it'll be pretty good.
Mhm.
The Marvels, toss up.
I'm gonna say a no on that. Look, I didn't like the show and I didn't like the movie. What makes them together gonna make it good?
I said it was a toss up. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. Um, uh, what's her face? Monica Rambeau was not the strongest part of WandaVision either. So,
Yep. She wasn't needed.
but I think it's a different director. It's not the same director. So,
Okay.
maybe something different. Um, Ironheart. No.
Mhm.
Yeah, no. Okay, Daredevil Born Again, which is going to be their longest show.
Mhm.
It's another 20 episode show. And I guess do we get Daredevil with it?
That's the thing. It's
Do
like
we
I
get
know what I
Daredevil?
want. I'm not convinced we're gonna get it.
Look, I think they can do it without it being like you can have Daredevil, the Daredevil
Mhm.
without the corridor scene.
No, I think it can be done. I don't think they're gonna do it well. I honestly don't.
Man, if he fell at Daredevil, man, I don't know. Then Thunderbolts and Captain America.
But see, that's the thing. Like everyone keeps hollering about the Thunderbolts are coming. The
I don't know.
Thunderbolts are
Yeah,
coming,
I'm not that
and
interesting. I gotta see
I'm
a
like, I
trailer
don't
or something.
know who they are.
Yeah.
Number one, it feels like something I'm not gonna care about.
And then Captain America can be good. Yeah, a lot of Phase 5 is it could be good.
Yeah.
So we got to see where they go. I guess Ant-Man's gonna be the first to tell us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's fun. So that's what's wrong with Phase 4?
Yes.
We did a lot of talking about what we didn't like about Phase 4. What did you think? Do you think Phase 4 is the worst in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or did you just have a blast with Phase 4? Some people did. I don't know why, but they did. So let us know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.